Welcome back. You're listening to WUSB Stony Brook. And this is the Spectrum. You just listened to the vocal few for the past half an hour. I'm joined by one of the members now. How about you introduce yourself, tell us your role in the band, and a quick bio of how it started, and yeah.
Sure. My name is Christy McDonald. I'm one half of Vocal Few. There's just two of us in the band, so it's my husband, Matt, and myself. And I play keys and I sing and do some various auxiliary stuff. And Matt plays guitar and sings and does everything else. We started, it's actually been about 5 years. We have an easy marker point because we started as an inspiration of the birth of our first daughter, who just turned 5. So it's an easy way to mark how long we've been going for it.
So you guys didn't make any music together before she was born?
No, we did. Well, so we started when I was pregnant with her.
Okay.
And his primary project is his other band called The Classic Crime, which is a rock band, and he had been doing that for 5 or so years at the time. And him and I had always enjoyed music together, like casual way. It had always been a really big shared interest of ours, and we like to sing together, and but we had never done it in a more formal capacity.
Okay.
And I had begged him to do it for a long time, and he was like, that just sounds like so much work. Like, I don't know if it's going to be worthwhile. And,
but it seems like it's been worth it, getting to like the fourth-ish release. It's been going on for a while now, and it's been successful.
Yes. I think that he like really quickly ate his words after we released our first song, literally. He was like, oh wow, okay, people do care, so I guess maybe that was worthwhile. It didn't take long for him to. So it was
unexpected to you guys that it kind of blew up a bit.
Yeah, there was a little buzz at first that was unexpected, and it made us really excited. And honestly, the plan was never to really. I don't even know why we came up with the band name, truthfully, because the whole purpose of it was just to like record something really for ourselves and for our kids, and then. Once people cared and were asking about it, then we were suddenly obligated to make more music, and we didn't mind that at all. So,
so we're just going to start with some general type questions. What are some of your anticipated releases of 2017?
Oh my gosh. That's such a good question. I feel like I don't have my finger on the pulse of I'm a busy mom. So I like when things come out and they are like blasted in my face.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, like when it's there, I feel like some of my very favorite bands, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, they're releasing a record. I like see it like the day before it comes out. So I don't really have my finger on the pulse of what is coming down the pipeline as far as releases.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Which is really lame, but
all right.
I'm more living in the moment these days.
The next question I got for you is what are some of your inspirations growing up, some musicians that you looked up to?
Yeah, great question. I don't know if I can really call them inspirations like as they inspire our music, but I was a 90s kid.
Yeah,
I was
more like you were really into it as a child, and it helped you want to make music, pretty much.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Growing up in the grunge era, that was just huge for me. So you can't see me right now because our cameras aren't working, but I'm actually wearing a Nirvana t-shirt, so it's like typical of Seattle. So I had a huge, I really, really loved Nirvana and later the Foo Fighters and Pearl Jam and Green Day and
all the classics.
And I wasn't my parents were pretty strict about what I was allowed to listen to, so I had one friend who would sneaky lend me CDs to borrow, and I would borrow them as long as I could before he was like, give me that back. It's like way pre-streaming days. So I was hugely into those. And then, later on when the internet became more of a thing, I got really into more indie stuff, Death Cab for Cutie, and different local Seattle bands that were really inspiring. And I mostly like singing anything and everything. I just like singing. I feel like it's good for my soul. So
Okay, last general type question. If you could pick anybody, pretty much in the scene now, or just like any musician, can be a singer, can be a guitarist, drummer, and they have opportunity to be featured on one of your songs, who would it be?
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm asking very hard questions.
Gosh, I have so many. One of my favorite bands of all time is Arcade Fire. And like, if I could do something with Win and Regine, I could die right in there. That would be the coolest thing ever. I also like a lot of female fronted bands. I love the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And I love Tegan and Sarah. So if it were about girl power,
there you go.
Fun to do something with them.
All right, so I thought this was a really interesting part of your band was the touring aspect, and you guys do this thing called a living room tour. Can you explain to the listeners what that is?
Yeah. So we actually straight ripped off the idea from Dave Bazan, who, like, former Page of the Lion. He had been doing it, and we were like, wow, that seems like it'd be a really good fit for us, because it's just the two of us, and it's kind of our sets are quieter and able to be accommodated in a smaller venue, and actually we feel like it's better in a smaller venue. So the way that the living room tour works is we have different people host us from around the country in their homes, and they open their home up to their friends and then also strangers to buy tickets to watch a show in their living room. So it's super intimate, and we just have a real fun time doing it. And we did a 6-week nationwide living room tour last year, and we are just planning an 8-week living room tour for this summer that we're really looking forward to.
So what goes into planning this type of like 6-week, 8-week adventure, like cross country? Because it must be a little bit harder or easier, I'm not really sure, than booking regular venues.
Yeah, so it's probably harder in some ways and easier in others. We're just dealing directly with people, and it's usually people who like our music and are excited to host us. So that's a really nice aspect. Basically, what we do is we're lucky to have access to Matt's fan base from both bands, and he just has really great welcoming fans, which is really cool. So basically what we do is we decide on a general route that we're hoping to take, and we just say, hey, like, who lives in these cities, who wants us to come play at their house? And then we have people send us an email with their space, and we see if it would be like a good acoustically and a good fit for a number of people to be in their space. And then we kind of go back and forth with them, and once we have a big group of people who are willing, then we set all the dates in those cities, and then the tour's booked, and we start selling tickets a month or two out, and
so
it's kind of how it goes.
Were there any big memorable moments from the last year's tour?
That's a good question. So it was our first 6-week tour. So prior to that, we had only done 2 weeks at a time, and we travel with our kids too. So that's kind of crazy. We did the last tour in a 15-passenger, like a typical tour van. And now we've since had one more child. So we just went and got ourselves an RV. But anyway, that's kind of besides the point. So like it's every day is interesting having all those kids on the road and seeing all the different cities. We stumbled upon Arches National Park on our last tour. It wasn't really part of our plan, and we landed there, and it was like so beautiful and really awesome. And we did a great hike with the kids, and so it's part of the reason why we're extending the time of this next tour is so we can take more days off to see some cool spots like that.
So the last question I got for you for like general type things before like we move into like the writing process and stuff, is the fact, you know, we kind of briefly mentioned it before. The band started because your child, you got pregnant, and financially you guys needed money, so you guys started this project. Do you feel like this project would have started anyway later on?
You know, the fear was that it wouldn't have. We thought our lives would be over once we had kids, which didn't turn out to be true. We have plenty of life left in us, and we're brave souls, so we do what we want to do, even though we have kids. But I don't know that it would have, because I think that we had the right chunk of time while I was pregnant to write and record, and then we realized, after we did that, we realized, oh, we can fit this in with kids. But I think had we not known that we could fit it in with kids, or had tried it out before, we might just been like, oh, that just won't work. It's too much time. So it was this little magical window where we did it, and I'm so grateful that we did.
So let's move into the SnowDrift EP.
Yeah.
Which recently released back November 26th, I believe. So what inspired you guys to do this Christmas-type album, and what's the idea behind the cover art?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Matt and I both are not huge fans of traditional Christmas music.
This is the overplayedness of it, of course.
Yeah, overplayed. Some of it is like, I mean, some of it's super fun, and some of it's very meaningful, so I don't want to write off the whole genre, but there's a lot of really campy stuff that just gets really boring, and I think a huge part of this season that's overlooked is just people who feel left out, or, you know, have poor relationships with their family, so it's a hard time for them, or, you know, someone who's experienced loss during a hard season, or during the holiday season. I feel like that's largely overlooked.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
In Christmas music. So, you know, we had been thinking about doing some Christmas music for a while. And Matt is always so critical of it in general that he was like, well, I should probably put my money where my mouth is and not just be a hater and write the type of Christmas music that would be encouraging or inspiring to me. So, there are a couple very happy, fun, familial songs on there, and then there in the center of the album are a few very dark, pensive songs, and I think we had in mind like people who feel left out during that season, and that's kind of where we got inspired for that.
So what was the idea behind the SnowDrift title? Is that just for the Christmas factor, or was that more metaphorical meaning?
What do you want it to mean? I'm just kidding. That's, yeah, I think
go super in depth for that.
I think, like, yeah, I think it was more, it was partially just generally Christmas or winter related, and then partially, just the feeling that it evokes, which is, it's a drift. It's something that's left aside, or set aside. It's not the mainstream. It's not the powder that you're, you know, that you're enjoying while you're skiing down the mountain. It's drifted, it's left aside, and it's sort of the idea of going along with people who feel a little left behind in the holidays.
So, were there any, could you share any backstories to any of the songs on the EP?
Sure. So the first track, which was our first single, is called Merry Christmas. And that is like a real story from our life it's actually called Ice Storm 2008. Merry Christmas is the chorus. So it's about in Seattle in 2008. It doesn't snow here very often, but when it does, the whole town just panics. And that we got quite a bit of snow and then quite a bit of ice there afterward. And so the whole town basically shut down for like a week. And I mean, nobody was going to work. And we lived on Queen Anne Hill at the time. And we just like, it was the coolest experience because it created this camaraderie. I've never normally had a conversation with. And so the story is kind of about that. It's like about our experience during that snowstorm and sharing friendship with our neighbors. So that was...
So
yeah,
I noticed that a lot in your music. You put lots of stories in, many songs. Is that just a part of keeping those family type memories together? Instead of like a picture book or, it's a different access point, I guess. For those
totally.
memories.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I think that we do like to it's like a different archive of our experiences. And because Matt and I basically grew up together, we have many of those. Another one on our Dream Alive record is called You've Been Written, and actually it just basically tells that story. It's like you've been written into the songs of my life. And so, yeah, that's a great way to look at it. It basically is kind of an archive or photo book, so to speak.
So how do you guys write your music together? Let's just start instrumentally. Is it just a jam session or is it just piece by piece type thing?
Matt is like really the chief songwriter. He would argue a little bit differently, but he does about 98% of it basically. So he's like really just his personality. He's a total wolf, and even with his own band, he likes to hold up and just basically write something from start to finish.
So does that like interfere kind of with your guys' own project, just back and forth between bands?
With the two? No, not at all. I think at first the Classic Crime guys, who are all, we're all so close and really good friends, but I think they were a little nervous at first that like, he's got a band with his wife. It's going to take priority. And if it doesn't, we're going to see some Yoko Ono. But it's actually we have a really good rhythm with it where he does a Classic Crime record and then he does a Vocal Few record. And so, and some of the time he has crossover. So, while he's writing for Classic Crime, he may write a song that he's like, that's going to be better for Vocal Few or vice versa.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask that type of question. Probably he had his points. I would ask him if he was here that, like, we would be making a song. It's like, oh, does this sound too much like the Classic Crime, or does this sound too much like the Vocal Few?
Yes, that definitely happens. In fact, that's where our first EP came from. It was already written before we recorded it. He shelved these songs thinking these don't work at all for the Classic Crime, but maybe they would work for something down the road. And like, he knew that since I had always been asking him, I think in the back of his mind, he was thinking maybe one day I'll record one or two of these with Christy. And then that ended up coming down the pike. But as far as his writing process goes, I will sometimes write a piano part, or I'll come up with a melody, and then I will deliver it to him basically, and he'll write a whole song around it.
Do you guys both write the lyrics together at all?
He does the skeleton, and then we'll go back over songs together and tweak things. And then, he writes a lot of the, some of our songs are back and forth where it's my voice and his voice. And so sometimes he'll write my line and I'm like, no. That's not what I would say. And so we'll tweak it a little bit to give it a little bit more of my perspective or whatnot. Okay. But he writes the basic skeleton and then we kind of work from there. The one example of where we were really collaborative on lyrics was in, more he worked on my inspiration was in Cheers, which is the last song on our SnowDrift EP. That song came out in like 5 or less minutes, where we basically sat across the room from one another, and I'm like, we need to have a Christmas song about this. And I'm like, okay, sing something about the fire. Like, okay, sing something about whiskey and apple cider. Like, so it was like, and then he's so brilliant with that he just like basically crapped out the song where it's just like, yeah, it was just like, yeah, it just like flowed right out of him. So sometimes we'll do little stuff like that, but he works best when he's really, really streamlined focused. So even if he is working with someone else's ideas, he'll take the idea in his own little space. And then he'll come back and be like, what do you think about this or this or this? And then we'll discuss it a little bit. But he's not the type to be like, let's just sit in a room and you say your idea and I say my idea. That he's like, he's too focused for that kind of writing.
So we're going to be finishing up here because we're running out of time, and I bet you're probably busy or whatnot. So, but is there anything you guys want to experiment sound-wise in the future for any future release?
Oh, that's such a good question. We're planning on writing and recording another EP coming this fall, so basically after the tour. And we have this crazy plan to go move to Canada. We're both Canadian. We're going to go move to the east coast of Canada for basically a school year. And I hear they have a really strong folk Celtic scene out there. I don't think that that's the way we'll go, but I'm really curious to see how living in that space, how that environment will play out. And I myself am really interested in just indie vibes. So I would love to do more experimentation with different types of instruments rather than just guitar and piano, and just be able to get creative in that regard. So we'll see how Nova Scotia, Canada inspires us.
All right, so let's end it here. I want to thank you for joining us. How about you just give the listeners where they can find you online, your music, and keep up to date with what you guys are doing?
Awesome. Yeah. So all of our info is on vocalfew.com. You can find information there on hosting us for a living room show. If you're interested, we're still accepting submissions through the next week.
If you hit New York, we're here on campus. We can probably do something up in the studio.
That would be really fun. We actually have I want to say
campus here.
Are you in Long Island?
Yep.
We have four different New York submissions, so we're going to be there. So we should be keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely, because we can probably set it up in the new. We're moving to a new temporary studio and a new studio, so we can probably have a decent sized room, depending, how many people you want.
That would be really fun. We're looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Definitely stay in touch. Good luck with the future of the band. Good luck with the upcoming tour.
Thank you so much for having us, Kyle, or having me.
Hopefully Matt can join us next time.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We'll do both.
Right. Bye.
Bye.